So this is just a personal preference. It doesn't really matter, but I'm going to go ahead and hook up the low voltage first to get it out of the way. I don't like cutting it off too short. I always want to make sure I've got a little bit of extra. So I like to go up in and curve back down about to the bottom. That way, if I need extra, I'll have it there once we're done. So I'm going to cut that low voltage off here with my strippers cutters. I'm going to go all the way down to the cutting end, cut those off. Now, for stripping this, we need to get this outside plastic jacket off. And so kind of the same way that we did with our electrical whip, where we had electrical conductors inside. So we don't want to cut through those, but we need to get this jacket cut off. And so kind of the same way, I take my strippers down to the cutting edge without even squeezing. I just go around till I scar all the way around that jacket. And then we should be able to just kind of bend that and slide it right off without ever touching the wire that's inside. Now, this string is here so that if you want to pull that further, we can grab this string and pull, and it'll actually rip down further through, but I'm deep enough for what I've got there, so I'm just gonna cut that string off. Now, we only need 2 wires. This is an air conditioner, just has basically a hot and a common coming from the inside unit. But I have 5 conductors in my thermostat wire. And so we're only gonna use 2. On an air conditioner, we always use red and white. And so we're just gonna not use these others. Now, we don't wanna cut those off. That's a mistake that a lot of people make. It's gonna be true at our thermostat, that's gonna be true out here. We wanna keep those for future use. And so what I like to do is just to wrap those up neatly around the jacket. I'll let you see what that looks like. My finger's in the way right now, but once I get that wrapped up, that way if we ever need an extra wire, it'll be here ready to use. So once we're done with that, we've got a nice, neat, bound up extra wire with our red and white sticking out here ready to use. So before we can connect those to our unit, we'll need to strip these back, and about maybe 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch here. And I'm gonna go all the way up to my top notch of my strippers, squeeze all the way down, pull those out. Same thing, all the way down, pull those out. Then I'm gonna take 2 wire nuts, and the collar does not matter here, which one goes to which collar. Everybody asks that. It does not matter when you just have 2 wires. One of them's a hot, one's a common. It doesn't matter which of the 2 you have. So we want to get these 2 wires up to each other at the equal ends, where both ends are basically level. And then we'll take our wire nut and tighten that down. You want to get it tight enough to where it starts twisting together. And then we'll pull all of our wires, make sure that's tight. And then we're going to do the same thing with our last wire. I'm going to get both ends right up there to the same distance. And then we will start our wire nut, twist it on till they start twisting around each other. Pull everything, make sure it's good and tight. And then we'll get it secured back in here. We want to make sure that there's nothing that are electrical wiring, electrical conductors, there's no copper showing, any little strands that came out. If you have a little strand sticking out that touches over here to this metal, then that's going to cause a low voltage short. So once we know everything's good, we can put it back in here and make sure it stays back in its compartment. Now we're going to move over to our line voltage, our high voltage. So we have our 3 conductors. The green is always going to be our ground, and that ground is going to hit somewhere on the cabinet. Generally they'll give us a nice ground lug. In this case they did. And then the 2 voltage conductors are going to go up here onto the bottom of our contactor. Almost always true that it's going to hit the bottom of the contactor. There are some situations to where it actually needs to hit the top of the contactor, but few and far between. So most of the time, and you'll normally be able to tell that there's going to be a bare spot here waiting for wires to be attached. And so that's what we have here. And so I'm going to start with the 2 voltage connectors, and we want to route those in a way that, again, we have a little bit of extra wire if we need it. So I like to kind of go down and around here so that I'm going to have extra. And so I'm going to cut those off about here. I'm going to cut them one at a time just in case. And then we're going to strip those off about a 1/2 inch. We're just going up in these lugs. So about a 1/2 inch back all the way down to the bottom notch. Squeeze down and pull out. Go back around to my screwdriver. These lugs are already out, so we're in good shape to go. We'll do one at a time. We'll take our red. If there is a red and a black, in this case there is, it's not really necessary, but just for professionalism, I like to match my reds to my reds and my black to my blacks. So we're going to take this wire and get up under these lugs. You have to be careful that all the strands go up on the inside, nothing hanging loose. And we will tighten that down really snug. Now the other thing we want to watch is that we don't, like this wire that's coming through here, we don't want to push that back behind our wire and have it looking funny where it's going out in front of one, behind the other. So you just want to try to keep everything nice and neat, and again, looking professional. So I'm going to make sure both my wires go behind that, make sure I'm up in good. Good and tight. So now all we have left is the ground. Same thing, we don't want to just take it straight up in the ground. We want to leave ourselves some slack. So in this case, I'm going to go all the way over here to the bend of this one and bring it back and then up and in. So I'm going to cut about here. And we'll strip that back a little bit longer because we have room to go all the way up through this ground lug. We want to make sure that we don't push it so far up in that it, when we tighten it down, that it tightens down on the plastic. We want to make sure that that lug tightens down on the copper conductors. And that also needs to be good and tight. The thing I'm going to do is tidy up that wiring a little bit by putting a wire tie on it. Those tails off. That gives us a nice, neat, professional result.